Hi, and welcome to the Journey to CEO Success. I'm your co-host, Melissa Saunders, and I'm joined by Patrick Thean, award-winning serial entrepreneur, CEO coach, and a Wall Street Journal and USA Today best-selling author. Patrick's latest book, The Journey to CEO Success, is a #1 Amazon bestseller and the inspiration behind this podcast. Patrick, it's great to have you here.
Hey, it's great to be here, man. This is our first podcast for the new year.
Woo-hoo, 2026. And we have a special guest today. His name is Noah Manyika. He's the founder and CEO of Kitchen Copilot, an AI-powered meal management and cooking platform transforming how families plan, cook, and eat. It's more than a convenience tool. Kitchen Copilot is a purpose-built app to bridge the gap between dietary recommendations and real-life habits, serving as the last-mile solution for chronic disease care. Wow. Noah, we love your mission to make food both healthy and joyful. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Melissa, and thank you, Patrick. It's an honor to be here.
Yeah, welcome, man. Welcome to our show. You know, you're an entrepreneur. You're the CEO of Kitchen Copilot and the author of The Challenge of Leadership, Is There Not a Cause? I would love for you to just start by taking 2 minutes and share with us what Kitchen Copilot does and why you're so excited about Kitchen Copilot.
Yeah, you know, there are some decisions that we make on a daily basis, Patrick, which seem unimportant but are very consequential. And one of those decisions is, what do we eat today? And, you know, managing that process may seem like something that's easy to do, but it's not. You know, that's the reason why a lot of people don't do meal planning, you know. So we go to the store and we just buy what is missing from the kitchen. But that decision about what we're going to eat today has health consequences. It also has financial consequences. It has consequences for the well-being of the family, whether emotional or physical. So Kitchen Copilot basically is what we started off as was build a foundation so that people would easily make that decision in a rational way. Decide what are we going to eat, plan the meals, plan what you're going to buy from the store,
Yes.
and just make it easy to manage your own home. But beyond that, Patrick, every household has somebody who has dietary restrictions or dietary preferences and things like that. The ultimate goal actually is to integrate with the medical vertical and make sure that people can actually make the decisions that are great for their health. That's really the redemptive idea, not just providing a consumer tool.
Well, as you know, I'm from Singapore, the food capital of the world. So love the fact that you have an app like that. We Singaporeans always care about what we eat. Not sure it's the most healthy, but we always care about what we eat.
Right.
Help me with one key differentiator. You know, there's so many apps today. When somebody's looking at Kitchen Copilot, what is the one special differentiator for you that the reason why you built it actually, plus how that translates to the app so that somebody can go, oh, I'm going to choose Kitchen Copilot versus so many of the other apps out there.
Yeah, you're very right. I mean, there's a plethora of stuff out there in the digital world. But one of the things that we have really focused on is to really reduce the friction, because that's the most important thing. You know, there's a reason why there is no category defining app right now in the food place. You know, if I were to say, hey, Patrick, give me an example of an Uber of meal planning, I think you'd be hard pressed to find one. And our goal is to actually be that, the category defining app, which makes things frictionless. So one of the things, for instance, this 21st of January, we're releasing a version of our app which has a chatbot where somebody who is cooking can actually do it hands-free. So there's your phone. You can talk to your phone and you can say, hey, open this recipe for me. It will open it and say, what's the next instruction? And it will talk to you. And you'll actually be able to, cook hands-free using your phone. But beyond that, you're going to be able to create a shopping list from that and actually order stuff from the store. But that's just one aspect of it. The most important thing, the redemptive side of this, is integrating that consumer-facing app which helps people on a day-to-day basis with those decisions, with the medical side of things, which we think is absolutely critical.
I think the medical side of things is so important because people don't fully understand what they're eating and how that affects them. So I think that's a key differentiator for you. By the way, I also noticed that you're very much into AI. So is there AI built into your app, and what does it do? If there is?
Yes. So in fact, the voice and text chatbot is one of it's really leveraging AI. But the personalization, we have to, whether we like it or not, we have to do hyper personalization for meal planning, because again, just managing a household, let's say, there's 5 of us in our home, for instance. Each of us has different preferences. But preferences are, we can manage preferences, but there may be restrictions even. So, just making sure that we leverage AI to make sure that it notifies a person if something that they're going to eat or something that in their dietary plan is outside of their preferences and all of that. That's really, really important. And then things like, we want to make sure that people eat what they like. So imagine you actually do have a recipe in there and you want to do substitutions, and you actually leverage AI to substitute some of the things that are in a recipe that you like with ingredients that are healthy for you. So it's serious leveraging of AI.
Yeah, I think if you have allergies, for example, I have a daughter who has peanut and tree allergies, which are quite dangerous actually. Her allergy is pretty severe. So for someone like my daughter, for example, I would see this as a really good help from a medical health standpoint.
Exactly.
Your AI can actually help her with that, highlighting things which she may not even know could have trace nuts issues and things like that. I can see that really helping people. Exactly. So tell me about your cause and passion, because you have so many projects. You've got your book, you've got the Issachar Collective, but I'd love to learn a little bit about your journey. So let's talk about your personal journey now that has led you to this point today. As you know, this podcast is about helping CEOs have joy and success together, because I believe too many successful people have maybe sacrificed some joy in their life, and I'm saying, don't do that. Let's have both joyfulness and success. So tell me about your cause, your passion. What has led you to this point? How has God brought you to this point?
Yeah, that's a great question, Patrick. I want to give 100% of the credit to 2 people, my parents, my late parents. I was born in colonial Rhodesia, Patrick. And as you can imagine, being born into those circumstances, they were challenging. But to have parents who are able to unlock curiosity, to inculcate responsibility, and to ignite this sense of possibility under those circumstances. That's really where my journey began, and to find joy in the little things, and to find, to ignite your imagination and curiosity. I remember my mom visited the United States in the early 60s and brought home a little thing called a Viewmaster. A Viewmaster was kind of like you could actually see pictures in stereo. You remember that?
I had one.
So I think that the secret to kind of like a joy-filled life is, when you actually have that sense of curiosity and possibility and responsibility inculcated by your parents, if you're fortunate enough to have great parents. And that's where my stuff begins. So everything that I've done in life from that point, my exploration, living in different parts of the world, in Eastern Europe, in the United States, and trying so many things, and being curious about the intersection of technology and food and global affairs and all of that. That's where it comes from. So I didn't start with.
Tell me about when you said something about the little items of joy, or the little parts of joy. How do you do that? How do you find joy in? It sounds like you find a way to find joy in almost everything. How do you do that?
Yeah, and I actually think that again, this was a gift from my parents. You really have to be settled about who you are. If you are still. I think that one of the worst things that people do is in life still trying to discover who you are. I think you have to know who you are. And
And
once
how did you do that? How did you figure out or discover who you are?
Yeah, and again, I would like to think that I was a brilliant person and I did it myself. I didn't. It was really the gift of good parenting and faith. Just and my parents drove this into us. You have no excuse. You are a great person, even though you're born in Rhodesia under these circumstances. You're a great person, and you have a great mind. You have a great mind, and there's no excuse for us. And I think once you get comfortable with that expectation from people who are around you, you tap into a joy that's within you, and it continues to grow, because once you start then once you start believing that, right, and you start acting on it, and you start getting some good results, so you go to school, and as a result of the expectations, you excel, your joy increases, and then you go from there and you go into, in my case, I went to school in different places, where I'm now in Romania, for instance, studying with people from different countries, and I'm excelling, and your joy increases. You start working on a project, and you get some success. There may be some challenges, but you get some success. Your joy keeps increasing, and it goes back to just that sense of curiosity, responsibility, and possibility that is inculcated by those who take care of you.
So what happens? What did you do, or what did your parents teach you when you did not have? Because success is up and down. Sometimes you have success. Sometimes you hit the wall. You got to pick yourself up and go, "It's okay, man. It's okay. No, I got to get going again." So, what happens when you didn't get that initial success? How did you continue the journey and continue to have maximum joy?
Yeah, so actually, I would say, a lot of times people look at failure as as something that's the destination. So if you fail, that's it, you fail. But I think failing is part of exploring. So and
This
I
is
think
the curiosity part here.
Yes,
The curiosity part. Yeah.
You explore, and you do some things, and you hit a brick wall, and you keep finding ways around whatever brick wall you've run into. And I think that my parents were very, very good examples of people who were always trying. And we think about this, Patrick. When you're born, your education is through imitation. You look at what those people who are around you are doing, and a lot of that then actually forms the bedrock of your convictions and how you approach life. And how I approached life was really looking at what they were doing, and this indomitable kind of approach to life. It's not, so this is failure, it's temporary, and and then when you're actually inspired by faith, and I'm a believer, I'm a Christian, and basically the Bible doesn't hide anything. You run into brick walls. Moses did. You run into brick walls and so on, but that's not the end of life. There's something inside of you which is bigger than the challenge that's outside.
Yes. I also heard something you said about your parents earlier, that no excuses. This was one thing I heard you say. I think the no excuses concept also asks you to own your circumstances, right? So no excuses, you own it. And I find that for myself, that's a big part of my formula, actually. Absolutely. is to not be the victim of saying, I was born into a bad situation, or I lost this deal because that guy messed me over or something. But to really own your circumstances and own your situations, and then from that ownership of the situation, you can find ways to move forward.
And Patrick, you are absolutely right. That's one of the things that my parents never allowed us to do, to blame somebody for the situation we were in. And that was unusual, because here we are in colonial Rhodesia, and it does look like our circumstances are because there's an oppressive, racially discriminatory system that's in our country. But my parents would never allow that in the home. That's no excuse for you not to study. That's no excuse for you not to understand what you need to understand from reading this book. I mean, by the way, I always tell people, I used to go to school without shoes. I used to study by candlelight. I encountered my first textbook in first grade. I never went to kindergarten, but after 3 months of first grade, because of the expectation of my parents, I was supposed to be able to read and write in 3 different languages and to do math. no excuses, right? And I think for a CEO, that it's the same thing. You know, your circumstances may be really bad, but they must not blind you to the good things that you can do in those circumstances. And I think that's one of the greatest gifts that my parents gave us. You know, don't blind yourself to the good. For instance, you've got good parents, you've got a good home, you have most importantly, you have a loving God that created you and gave you an indomitable spirit, and you can figure your way out of the challenges that you experience.
Yes, that's right. So you take that, you own your situations, and then you move forward. That's awesome. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah. So what are some other leadership decisions you've had to make so far in this journey that have helped you get here that you can share?
Yeah. So one of the things is, and I've been fortunate on my leadership journey because a lot of the things that I have done reflect my own personal interest. So it's not kind of like I looked for some things which were outside of my interest space. I share with my friends about being in a class, for instance, in the 80s. I was studying diplomacy at the time. I just come from Romania, and I was at Georgetown University studying diplomacy. And I had the good fortune of having a lecturer who was talking to us about the Strategic Defense Initiative, which Ronald Reagan was touting at that time,
Yes.
which was amazing for me. You know, Star Wars, yeah. It was amazing for me because that was my first exposure into how technology can actually help solve a big problem. Because as you can imagine, to make Star Wars work, you did have to have AI. You did have to have serious computing power that could identify and interdict Soviet missiles and all of that. But that's when my curiosity about technology solving big problems was really ignited. And I've always had this interest in food, and having lived in different places, I'm like, this is way back in 1985. I'm thinking, how can we use technology, AI, as we in today's parlance? How can we use that to actually solve some big problems? So over the years, that has been my quest, and it just happened in COVID. I started thinking seriously about, okay, I started some food companies before, but then during COVID, I was like, you know what? How can we leverage this technology to actually solve problems related to food? So I was fortunate in that regard. And my advice would be, hey, find something that you can, because passion needs to be sustained, right? Yes. If you find something that is kind of outside of your area, then you have to really work hard to sustain. I love the food area. I love global cuisine. I love technology. And that makes it easier for me to sustain my interest, even when we actually do have challenges. I'm like, hey, you know what? I've got to do this. I feel like it's
if your interest and your passion,
right,
and you're not seeking knowledge or curiosity can intersect.
Right.
That's a beautiful thing, because what you're saying is you don't need to force yourself to go learn something. When you're curious, when you're interested in something, you're automatically curious, right?
Exactly.
Curious. In fact, in my book, I talk about curiosity. That's the first practice of my 7 practices for a successful CEO.
Right.
And I think what I've learned about curiosity is that lots of times people will say to me, "Hey, how do we make this guy a better listener?" And I've shared with people that actually you don't have to be a better listener. You just have to be more curious about the person you're talking to.
Right.
If I'm not curious about you, and thank you so much again for being on our podcast show today. And I'm curious about the discussion we're having, because if I was not, I would have to I got to refocus. My mind's wandering. I got to really focus on Noah. But I'm really interested in what you're saying. So I don't have to be a better listener. I just have to be a little more curious. So as you say, if your interests can connect, with that, and then you're curious about it, it could really feed your work, and suddenly time just flies, right? You heard the phrase. I mean, time flies when you're having fun, right?
Right, exactly. And you know what, Patrick, I've really been fortunate as well. I would say, for instance, one of the successes in our journey is putting together a team of like-minded people. So I'm co-founder with Scott Forsyth. Came up with the idea, but then needed somebody who was a technical guy, but who really we really connect. and I connected with Scott Forsyth, and he's an amazing CTO and co-founder of our company. But interestingly, we have also connected with guys from Singapore. We have a team actually working from Singapore with one of our advisors there, who is based in Singapore, and then we have another team in Serbia. Because hey, food is global, right? Yes. And if in the process you can actually bring all these people from different food cultures and different technical practices and so on, do we guarantee success? No, we create conditions for success, and that's what we believe is going to happen.
Love that. So, what is your dream for yourself and your company right now?
Our dream is really for Kitchen Copilot to be ubiquitous, and the reason is because the problem that we are actually focusing on is really big and it affects everybody. So you got to give a tool that everybody can like, and therein lies the challenge. How do you do that? How do you make sure that this is a tool that everyone likes? But look at some of the successful companies that have been out there, Apple and all of them. When they start off as niche products and so on. But what they do is they insinuate themselves into the daily lives of people, and pretty much that's what we want to do.
Everybody eats, right? Everybody eats.
Everybody eats. Yeah, everybody eats. And everybody, most people have the same problem. What am I going to eat tonight? And most families have the same issues. How do we manage the different preferences and dietary restrictions of the people in the home? So if we can then provide a tool that can address all those problems, it'll be great.
Well, I mean this last thing as a joke, really, but yes. Most of us Singaporeans have the other problem of what should we not eat tonight?
well, yeah, well, even that too. Maybe our platform can help. It can ping you. And our notifications can say, "Hey, Patrick, you are not supposed to be eating that today." In fact, you said that as a joke, but we have actually talked about it with Scott. Like, if you do your meal plan, and there are things that you put in your meal plan which you're not supposed to because you have had too many carbs that week. Yes. Our app is designed to actually tell you need to actually take that off your meal plan because that's not good for you.
Yeah, that'll be great. Like, for example, I personally have a goal every day of how much protein I want to eat, and how much carbs I need to limit the keyword health food. But when I finish my day and I record it in my food journal, I look at it. And, many days I've eaten too many carbs, right?
Right.
I joked about this with my doctor once when he said, Patrick, you need to cut out rice and noodles from your diet. I said, Doc, what the heck? I'm Chinese, man. That's
I know.
You tell me to cut out rice and noodles. But I've been trying to do that. So if I'm over my carbs, I'm like, less rice, less noodles. But it'd be really cool if maybe your system already does this, but to be able to tell me, all right, you've already eaten 50 grams of carbs today. So, so for your dinner, I know you had planned something. Right. The AI could then wake up and say, look, hey, you planned to have fried rice tonight, but that ain't going to happen, buddy. Not
exactly. Absolutely. And you know what, Patrick? So one of the things that Scott and I are always talking about is our apps have to be culturally sensitive. Because, for instance, in fact, we had a meeting this morning and we were talking about some of the disease-specific recipes that, for instance, we want to suggest to people. Well, if somebody is suffering from type 2 diabetes and they're Chinese, you're not necessarily going to prescribe them an American diabetic meal. It has to be a Chinese diabetic meal.
Yes.
Right. So one of the things that we really are focusing on is how do you end up with culturally sensitive diets for people so that it's not a punishment. I'm not punishing you and saying eat stuff that's outside of your culture. But how about eating stuff that's within your culture, but that's good for you? So this is where AI can really, really help us.
I do the Chinese version of salads, for goodness sakes.
Yeah, because then it becomes punishment.
Yeah. I still remember the first time I had a salad. I was like, I looked down and I looked at it. I said, Mom, we're eating grass. What the heck? Why are we eating grass?
Well, you come from
I'm a cow now. I'm eating grass.
I'm a cow now. This is goat food. This is rabbit food. Exactly. Exactly. No, exactly. And so cultural sensitivity, you know, that's one of the things that, so the reason why I think that a lot of diets fail, because a lot of diets don't respect the fact that I have certain cultural preferences. So I come from a tradition where we eat, our staple food is from cornmeal. It's called sada, and we eat that, like they say, with stew and vegetables. And if I don't eat that for a while, I don't feel human. I have to have it, you know. So, however, there are substitutes that I can, instead of using cornmeal, I can use other healthy flour that is not so bad on my health. So then that's what we're looking at. You know, how can I then say to Patrick, here is a diet for you, but it respects your tastes as a Chinese, you know. And if we can do that, then I think we'll break through. So that's the goal.
That's great. That's great. Hey, love talking to you. We talk the whole day. But my last question, my final question for you is, you know, this podcast is all about helping CEOs have a more joyful and successful life at the same time. Right. So my final question for you is, what advice can you leave our audience for them to have the best joyful and successful journey for their life?
Enjoy your family.
Enjoy your family.
It may seem unrelated to your work, but it is absolutely related to your work. Think about the places where you refuel. There must be places where you genuinely refuel, and families is you know is that place where you refuel. And I think love the people who love you and reciprocate, and do not miss an opportunity to invest in them, because investing in them emotionally is investing in yourself. For me, that's the most important. My wife is my best friend, and I've made a commitment. I am going to enjoy my life with my friend for the rest of my life, and love my children, because I know it actually impacts how I do my work.
Noah, thank you, man. Awesome. Yeah. Hey, Melissa, back to you.
Whew, that almost made me tear up, Noah. That's unbelievable. Thank you for that amazing advice. And I loved hearing your journey and how it was driven by curiosity. And I'm curious, actually, if we were hitting the road together, what's that one snack that absolutely has to come along?
Good question. The one snack that
cornmeal. Did you hear cornmeal?
No, so it's actually a bad one. It's not necessarily a bad one. Pistachios are not bad.
Oh no! Yeah,
I love pistachios. You know, and maybe a little bit of it's called ginger beer. It's not alcoholic. It's actually ginger beer and pistachios. That would make the trip unforgettable.
That's awesome. Well, you guys, that's a wrap.
Thanks,
Noah, for being here today and sharing your story. And until next time, you guys, go out there, be curious, download Kitchen Copilot, but above all, enjoy this journey we're on. Until next time, bye now.